Welcome to the Thrive by Design podcast, the show dedicated to helping parents navigate the ups and downs of raising children while building a thriving family life. With a background in educational psychology, years of experience as a teacher and principal, and a dedicated parent coach and mentor, Ben brings you practical insights, heartfelt advice, and real-life stories to help you face everyday parenting challenges with confidence and purpose. Whether you're looking to connect more deeply with your kids, support their academic success, nurture their emotional well-being, or simply find moments of peace in the chaos, this podcast is here to guide you. Now, here's your host, Ben McCarthy.
Hi everyone, this is part 2 of the 6 roles that make you a dad, not just a father. In our last episode, we looked at the first 3 roles. That of a leader. You are the captain of your team. You get stuck in the messiness of life. You are on the field with your team. You are there to make the calls and not in the somewhere distance giving advice. You're also the spiritual leader in your home, leading your family to love and serve the Lord. Your second role is to love your family unconditionally, to nurture them and to care for them. And then your third role is that of a provider. Yes, financial provision is important, but being a provider is so much more than that. In this episode, we are looking at the roles of you as a dad, as a protector, as a dad disciplining in love, and a dad encouraging their family. Buckle up, guys, because it's going to get honest here. When I sit back and think about a protector, I naturally think of those huge forwards in rugby or the linebackers in the NFL. Those guys are huge. But protectors don't have to be huge, bulky, or strong. My dad-in-law got me hooked on watching the Tour de France, and I have been a fan of this race for the past 21 years. I could, however, never understand how a whole team could ride over 3,000 miles, but only one cyclist in the team could have a chance to win the race. Yes, you heard me correctly. They do all that work, all those hours of training, all those mountain climbs for someone else to win. Their job is to protect their lead cyclist. They cycle in front to break the headwind. They stay behind and work together as a team to catch him up to the peloton if the lead cyclist has had a puncture or a crash. They take him food and water. And on those out-of-category climbs, they protect their leader by setting the pace so that he can make a break and win the stage. The team know that their hard work is entirely dedicated to the victory of their lead cyclist. So are we to protect our family. Each one of your children is like your lead cyclist, and you have to work hard to set them up to succeed in life. Now, listening to this, you may be thinking that I'm telling you that you have to do everything for your children. No, that would make them idols or demigods. The lead cyclist in the Tour de France still puts in the hard work. They never toed up the hill. They still train as hard as everyone else, if not harder. What I am saying is that when there is a headwind in your family, you need to protect your children from it. When there is a puncture or a crash, you need to stop next to the road with them and help them catch up. And as they are climbing the mountain of life, you need to protect them by leading, loving, and providing for them so that when they are old enough, your guidance and captaining they received will allow them to come out from under your wing and be confident to ride up the mountain by themselves. We do need to heed a warning here. We need to guard our hearts against being overprotective or underprotective parents. I have seen my fair share of overprotective parents in schools. Some parents are like helicopters. They hover over their children and interfere in everything they do. The new fad these days is what we call lawnmower parents. These are parents that try and cut the grass and make the pathway smooth for their children. They make every effort to remove all the stones and the thorns that are in front of their children. Crazy as this may sound, this has unfortunately extended beyond parenting young children and now includes adult children as well. I once received a call from a parent that was rather irate, wanting to know why their daughter was not successful in her job interview. Then we have parents who aren't protective enough. Parents whose attitude is that children must just grow up and figure it out themselves. Parents who think today's children are weak and need to toughen up. Now, I'm all for determination in children, but we don't live in the 60s, 70s, and 80s anymore. Our children are exposed to so much more, and the dangers are not as obvious as a dog chasing you down the road while riding your bicycle. One of the biggest threats to our children today are smartphones and devices. I once heard that giving a child a device is like giving them a loaded weapon. It may sound extreme, but statistically there is a direct correlation between anxiety, depression, and suicide since the introduction of the smartphone in 2007. I will add a link to 2 informative articles in the description with more on this topic. In summary, these articles indicate a direct correlation between excessive smartphone use and increased rates of anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation. Now, I emphasized excessive smartphone use. Experts tell us that it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when your child will be exposed to pornography on their smartphone or device. But before you go and throw away that smart device, let me remind you that you are the captain and the protector. You need to make those tough decisions. Going back to the Tour de France analogy, you will realize that I did not say that the team stops the lead cyclist from getting a puncture or they help him avoid all crashes. No, your team will get a puncture and they will inevitably crash. But as a protector of your family, you need to wait for them. Remove them from danger, make sure that they are safe, and then rejoin the race together. The 5th role of being a dad is that of disciplining in love. Have you ever seen horses out on the meadow roaming freely? They stand, they eat, they lie down, they canter, they trot, but they seem to have no purpose. But when you saddle them up for a race or a show, all of a sudden they have a purpose. They know what they need to do. They have to work within the confines of a track. They have the guardrails to keep them going forward and a person leading them. Sometimes horses get close to the fence and needs to be tugged away, and sometimes they need to wear blinkers. The same analogy can be applied to our children. They function best within the safety of guardrails. When they have a purpose, they often feel safe. It doesn't take a parent long to realize that their children are little sinners, just like us. Who can forget those terrible 2s? Oh, those tantrums, the disgusting 5s and 7s, and that's before they even become teenagers. The fact is that children feel safe when they know the rules, and they feel loved when they know someone cares enough about them to enforce those rules. As I mentioned in the previous episode, it is the captain and his leadership team who needs to step in if a player is out of line. The Bible teaches us that while God loves us beyond measure, He despises the evil that we do. It is through this lens that I have tried to discipline my own children and encourage you to do the same. I try to never punish them when I'm angry, but rather let some time pass before I address the issue. Now, I don't get that right all the time. I always try and address the action instead of the person. For example, you want to avoid saying that you are so naughty, but rather say that the behavior you displayed was rather disrespectful, and then go into explaining that actions have consequences and they are in trouble because they're being disrespectful. Our children need to understand that actions have consequences and we need to face those consequences. As young parents, my wife and I were taught some valuable lessons about parenting, and I would like to share them with you now. The first of these valuable lessons was that of credit card parenting. What is credit card parenting? Unfortunately, credit cards have high interest rates and the repayments are often very steep. Using your credit card is convenient and it creates instant gratification. but you're going to have to pay for it later, and you often pay much more than the original purchase would have cost. So too with disciplining your children. If you don't act immediately when your child needs disciplining, it is like you just swiping your credit card. The behavior or action will need to be dealt with at some stage, and often it comes at a much higher price. Secondly, we were taught as young parents to discipline the 3 Ds: disrespect, disobedience, and dishonesty. Is your child's behavior disrespectful, disobedient, or dishonest in any way? If the answer is yes to any of those questions, then you need to intervene. The third lesson we were taught is to differentiate between childishness and foolishness when it comes to disciplining our children. Sometimes children do things simply because they are children and they don't know better. But sometimes they do things even when they know better. Here is an example of what I mean. Your child might draw on the wall with their crayons and be very excited to show it off to you. If it's the first time that this happens, chances are that your child's being childish. They simply don't know better. That would be a teaching moment, a moment when you can sit with them and explain that you don't draw on walls. Maybe take a picture to keep it for their 21st, but then they have to help you clean it. However, if your child draws on a wall again, they should know better because you taught them. This would be foolishness and would require discipline. As a last note on discipline, dads, make 100% sure that discipline is always done in love and is always restorative. God disciplines us as His children with the intention of drawing us closer to Him. So too we as dads need to discipline our children in such a way that we build our relationship with our children. The sixth and final role that we're talking about here is that of dads as the encourager, or, if I may say, the builder-upper. As a dad, you are to encourage your children. You should be their number one supporter. Dads are called to encourage their children, helping them grow into unique individuals God created them to be. Just as God encourages us through His Word, a dad should speak life into his children. His Word should affirm, guide, and uplift rather than discourage. Proverbs 18 verse 21 says it very well. The tongue has the power of life and death. As dads, we should choose to speak life. We need to encourage our children with our words. When last did you tell your children that you love them? Even your teenage boy needs to hear that from you often. No matter how old your children may be, the feeling of being loved encourages us all. Children are designed to continuously look for love and affirmation. The first place they look for is at home. If their bucket is full and they feel loved, safe and secure, they will be able to face the world. The sad truth is that many children's love bucket never gets filled at home, which leads them to look for love and affirmation elsewhere. This often gets them into trouble. Through words of encouragement, we need our children to realize that they're all uniquely and perfectly made, in every way. Failure will come and our children must fail so that they can grow. But how you handle your child's failure will set you apart as a dad. Another way we get to encourage our children is with our presence. As being present, not giving them presents. In the last episode, we spoke about the fact that a dad's presence reassures his children of his love and support. Just as God sees the best in us, a dad should encourage his children to step into their gifts and callings. A dad who encourages like God encourages us will speak life, be present, guide with love, and believe in his children's potential. This kind of encouragement builds a child's confidence, faith, and resilience. That brings us to the end of this episode, as well as the end to a 2-part series. Being a dad means more than just having the title. It's about protecting, guiding, and encouraging your children every step of the way. You are their shield in tough times, their steady hand in discipline, and their biggest supporter as they grow into adulthood. Dads, you are doing a great job. Parenting is a journey, not a one-time event. Your role in your child's life is irreplaceable. Being present, loving, and leading matters more than perfection. Remember, God's designed dads to be leaders, nurturers, protectors, and encouragers. You are not just the father of your child, you are their dad. A safe place, a source of wisdom, and a model of God's love. Always remember, Jesus loves you, and God's grace is sufficient for every challenge you face as a parent. Keep showing up, keep leading, and keep loving your children well. There is so much information here, and may leave you feeling a bit overwhelmed. I will be hosting a workshop on the 6 roles that make you a dad and not a father in March. For those living in Johannesburg, I would love you to join an in-person workshop. For those who live out of town or abroad, I will still love to connect with you, and so I will be hosting this workshop online. Look out for more information about this on my Facebook page or send me an email at admin@ofthrive.co.za if you would like to attend. I look forward to growing in our roles as dads together and seeing our families thrive as a result.
That's it for this episode of Thrive by Design. If this episode encouraged you, please share it with another parent who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast or Ben's newsletter for more parenting insights and inspiration. Remember, you're doing better than you think. God's got you, and together we can thrive by design.